You're listening to the Jets Factor on SoundCloud.com and the Grandstand Sports Network.
Third down snap. Sanchez to the end zone over Arrington, and touchdown, New York, Santonio Holmes.
Now, here's your host, CJ DeSimone.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of the Jets Factor podcast here on SoundCloud.com. I'm your host, CJ the Painkiller DeSimone, and I have a very special guest joining me today who I'm going to bring on in just a moment. But first, just want to say I hope everyone is doing well for their 2018. We're going to be talking about a plethora of different things. I definitely encourage everyone to go check out the article that I wrote on full press coverage for Jets about the New York Jets, and it is time to fix the problem. Go to CNC Jets Factor on Twitter and check out the retweets and reposts for that link. You could also go and check out at FPC_Jets to go follow full press coverage for the Jets. Kyle H. and his gang over there, they do a tremendous job. I got the opportunity to do a piece with them this week and recently posted it, so I invite everyone to go and check that out. It is my spin on the Jets free agent situation and also what they should do in regards to the draft, which will be very, very interesting. So, without further ado, I have some intro music that I want to bring in my next guest. So here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the man, the myth, the legend, one of the esteemed co-hosts of the Talk Jets radio show. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, at T-Rauch21, he is in your program. Ladies, he's in your heart. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Tyson Rauch. Tyson, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing? And that's some intro, man. That's a lot to live up to right there.
Hey, man, let me tell you. Listen, it is a great pleasure to have you on the show. I've been trying to get you on the show for, forever. I had Joe on not too long ago, and I was even busting his chops that he needs to come back on, so hopefully we can get our schedules together where I could get him on. So, dude, you guys hit a major, major milestone most recently. I want you to tell our listeners all about it because this is like epic news, dude.
Yeah, well, let's talk Jets. We broadcast live on Tuesday nights at 8 o'clock, and during the season we're also on Friday nights at 8 o'clock. And we recently hit 300,000 downloads, which is pretty cool for two stupid guys trying to talk Jets football, man. So we're definitely proud of it. And to be honest, we couldn't do it without your help and everybody else just talking to us, talking football, getting us all fired up and everything else. So it's fun, man. It's been pretty wild.
Yeah, man, I can't believe it. When I saw the posts on Twitter that you guys recently eclipsed 300,000 listens, I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. Just the amount of lives that you reach out and you touch every single day. Wearing your heart on your sleeve, wearing your fandom right there on your sleeve, putting your opinions out there. Believe it or not, dude, and I'm not just saying this as kissing ass or anything like that. You and Joe and what you guys do with Talk Jets Radio, you guys are an inspiration to all of us that do New York Jets podcasts, and we all aspire to hopefully someday we're all talking, making our own announcements that we hit 300,000 listens. So you definitely have set the bar for all of us to follow. So for that, I congratulate you. And, dude, I hope you get another 600,000 listens.
Oh, dude, well, first of all, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And listen, I've known you a long time, man. We're all doing the same thing. Sometimes we just get lucky. And it's just, and as you know, man, it's a grind. It's just putting in so much time, so much effort. Joe does it. Kevin does it. We just been fortunate to have guys that are just putting in a ridiculous amount of time. But hey, dude, we'll enjoy it while it lasts. And talking to you is always fun too, man, because this team will drive us all crazy.
Oh my God, yeah, forget it. I thought at this point we were definitely going to be mainlining Jack Daniels throughout the course of the season. I had everything set up that I swore I was going to do live on the air. I was going to just start doing shot after shot of Fireball or Jack or whatever I could get my hands on. It was really this season I thought was really going to be a dumpster fire. But you want to know something? Surprisingly, I left even though I know we got our asses kicked by the Patriots at the end of the year, which was no surprise there. But, the team, even though finishing 5-11, the overall temperature of the team, I'm a lot more encouraged than I was at the start of the season. And I saw a lot of maturation go on within this team. We saw Robbie Anderson start to come into his own until, he decided to stick his head up his ass and he got arrested for being a retard. But that's another story for another day. We saw Austin Seferian-Jenkins, come out, have a decent year, but then start to tail off toward the end of the year. We got to see the emergence of Jamal Adams and Marcus May. Two corners, which everybody was like, Mac, what the hell are you doing? But there are times when one outplayed the other and vice versa during the course of the season. We got to see the two of them grow and really start to become leaders on this defense. Darren Lee, can't say enough about him. Demario Davis. Dude, I went on an epic rant about them trading Calvin Pryor for Demario Davis, about one player that sucked versus another player who sucked even worse. That was the reason why he was let go in the first place. But you know what? Hey, Demario Davis came in, and he played his ass off, and he made me eat my plate of crow, and I did it proudly because, you know what? I did not expect that we were going to get the production from Demario Davis that we did. And then Mo Wilkerson was Mo Wilkerson. Leonard Williams struggled this year. Hopefully next year he'll be able to bounce back. What were your thoughts overall?
I mean, you touched on a lot of great things. I mean, for me, I found this season ridiculously frustrating. Ridiculously frustrating because everybody said, "Oh, we're going to suck. We're going to suck." Here's a newsflash: we didn't, and they should have lost. They should have won probably 5 more games than they did, or for at least 4. So everybody that's celebrating, well, they went 5-11 and there's progress. I think that's nonsense. I think they underachieved. To be honest with you, I mean, I don't understand the mindset. I really don't. Where everybody's like, "Oh, we made so much progress." No, they underachieved, and that starts with Todd Bowles. So it's like, okay, and a lot of guys you mentioned, what they did was they brought in guys, young players that just didn't know any better, or veteran players playing for a contract. And you mentioned 2 of them, Demario Davis, Seferian-Jenkins, Mo Claiborne. These are all guys on 1-year deals. So guess what? They're playing their asses off because they're playing for a paycheck. So the mindset was there to get all hungry guys. And, there were some exciting moments and stuff. But, dude, I was frustrated all year long. I don't like losing. I don't expect to lose. I don't care who's the quarterback. And they kept screwing things up. They kept mental mistakes, stupid penalties, poor coaching, poor time management. And, you walk away and then we'll touch on a lot of things. But, dude, I was frustrated all year long. I really was.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there were plenty of winnable games. I mean, if you take a look at just 2 right off the bat, there were both of the games were at home. One of them was obviously the Austin Seferian-Jenkins touchdown that wasn't against the Patriots, and then there was another one where he also caught another touchdown, had one knee in the back of the end zone, and then he ended up rolling out of bounds, and apparently they said that they ruled it an incomplete catch altogether. So, I mean, officiating did play a minute part, but I don't want to use that as an excuse. But if you go and take a look at how many games the Jets had to lead in the fourth quarter and blew the lead, the biggest one that comes to mind is down in South Beach. All right, 28-14 lead. You should be clamping down on the Dolphins, and the Dolphins come back and win that game with their freaking backup, Matt Moore, who just for some reason seems to be the Jets' kryptonite. And I mean, we all knew Jay Cutler sucked. We all knew that was not even going to be an issue when the Jets just completely dominated them at Jet Life. But how many games did we see the Jets have the lead in the fourth quarter or within striking distance in the fourth quarter and not be able to just develop that killer instinct to put the foot on the throat and just clamp down?
It's ridiculous, man. It's adjustments. They don't make friggin' adjustments. Todd Bowles and his staff, and I don't know how Casey Rogers keeps his job. That's the biggest joke in New York Jets history. But, dude, going into the second half, I have no faith in this coaching staff to make changes. They don't make changes. They're going into the fourth quarter. They're not making any changes, and that's where they lose their games all season long. And you mentioned it, dude, but it's like – and the officiating is, listen, bad calls are bad calls. The Jets always get screwed for as long as I've been alive. But I'm so tired of seeing conservative Todd Bowles put his head up his ass and just run the ball, do stupid things, not get aggressive. The defense goes into a shell, no pass rush. Then they had the mental mistakes always kicking in the fourth quarter. They're blowing assignments left and right. No idea why. It's the same goddamn defense. It's ridiculous. And the Dolphin game was a joke. The game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was grounds to get fired. It was so piss poor. It was just awful. The game at Denver, some of these games were just embarrassing.
Yeah,
and
they really were.
It's inexcusable. And people are like, well, the Jets were supposed to suck, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. When you start saying things are okay is when you become complacent and when your organization goes backwards. And that's exactly what happens.
Right. Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of those points. One of the things that I guess, the majority of the fan base seems to be hanging their hat on is that, we were picked to go 0-16 anyway, so any wins would be like a consolation. But, to me, and this was the mindset that I went into this entire season, you had your 4 preseason games, and then you had your 16 regular season games, which to me, in my mindset, was an extension of preseason. So the only difference is that your first 4 preseason games, you had a roster of 96 guys. And in your 16 regular season games, you had your roster of 53 guys. So, to me, one of the things that I was surprised was I did not see a lot of rotation, guys being activated from the practice squad to come up to the club just to see what they can do. Like Deion Simon, I was very disappointed he didn't make the 53-man roster. There were some other guys who came up. Lawrence Thomas was probably the biggest transition for me that I had to wrap my head around. He was a great defensive lineman, and I know that they used him at fullback because of the fact they just don't have a bruising fullback. But that's McCagnon's fault because he didn't go out and get somebody. But converting a defensive lineman to a fullback, at first we thought it was okay, like, hey, it's a novel idea, but they still should have kept him somewhat in the defensive rotation. That's what Iron Man football was. So now, this is where, like, my big pet peeve with Todd Bowles is, and you hit the nail on the head correctly. When the second half of the game comes, and even in the fourth quarter, there's 0 adjustments made. And I'm right on board with you. I don't know how Casey Rogers still has a job. He must have naked pictures of Todd Bowles somewhere in his locker hidden away.
Yep.
Because there's just no way that the defense could collapse almost every single fourth quarter, end up playing bend but don't break, and not have a defensive coordinator not lose his job after these performances. I don't get it. So I'm convinced, dude. He's got naked pictures of somebody somewhere doing something. Okay, I don't know what it is. Either that or he knows like Todd Bowles, Thorazine dealer, and like probably threatened like, dude, you're going to be cut off. Right? If I don't still have my job, you're done. I don't know what the deal is with that, but when I see John Morton, I actually want to switch gears to the offense. When I see John Morton being relieved of his duties after 1 year, now I know that the Jets offense this year struggled, but it didn't struggle as bad as we all thought it was going to be. It didn't suck as bad as we all thought it was going to be. I thought that there were some times where the Jets could, if they just continued on some of their plans, would have had probably a very, very explosive offense, which at times we saw, and even in the Patriot game when we went up 14-3, where this team could score points in bunches and can be incredibly explosive. Why did they go away from that? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I wonder how much Todd Bowles gets involved during the game when they're doing play calling. Obviously, John Morton scripted plays, and I have a rant for you about this firing because this firing pisses me off to no end. But John Morton scripted plays, and I think they try to make adjustments and they implement their game plan for the rest of the game. And I wonder how much Todd Bowles gets involved in that. Because everybody says, Todd Bowles isn't involved in the offense. But then the same problems that we're having with John Morton, we have with Chan Gailey. People forget that. Chan Gailey did this too much, did that too much. He played Matt Forte too much. He did the same thing happened with 2 coordinators. So what's your common denominator? The head coach. So, yes, I agree they didn't make some adjustments, but there was times with the game plan you're like, this guy's incredible. Like, we've never seen creative play calling, take advantage of mismatches, doing all these things we've asked for 3 years. So why the changes weren't happening? But the other thing, we forget that, dude, this is his first time calling plays. He took a job nobody wanted. He took a job the Jets couldn't. They were borrowing, stealing, trying to find an offensive coordinator. he takes the job with a quarterback to be named because they wanted to give it to Hackenberg, and Hackenberg couldn't handle it. So they throw it to Josh McCown just saying, you know what, take it, we expect nothing, and they salvaged something out of it. Like they played better on offense than anybody expected. That's a first-time coordinator with a brand-new team, with a brand-new system, everything, kind of learning on the fly. So, I mean, when you consider all those things, it wasn't all that bad.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I mean, there were definitely some times when I saw Josh McCown utilizing the RPO very, very well. And, you know, it also helps when you have Robbie Anderson, who's a big receiver who can take the top off the defense at will and just sit and send him on a go route and let him run because, I mean, there's just nobody who can keep up with him. And, you know, there were times where just Josh McCown just put the pass beautifully in the bucket for these long pass play touchdowns. And I really was hoping that we would have gotten to see a little bit more of that. I would have liked to see a little bit more Jermaine Kearse being used, you know, and then, of course, you know, we had Jeremy Curley who ended up putting in. But, see, here's the thing that upset me about our wide receiver core and the offense utilization. You had Austin Seferian-Jenkins there as your safety valve, so to speak. All right? To me, with whatever was going on with Jalen Marshall, there was no reason for the Jets to go out and to re-sign Jeremy Curley, in my opinion. You have Ardarius Stewart there. You have Chad Hansen there. Ardarius Stewart was drafted for the main reason of A, being a slot receiver, B, being a kickoff and punt returner, okay, and C, doing the damn jet sweep because he's one of the fastest guys on the offense. So what I don't understand is that they kind of made this kid out to be a one-hit wonder when he had that preseason game when he ran for 11 yards and he stiff-armed some guy out of bounds. You know, they're like, oh, this is his great highlight reel. Why wasn't Ardarius Stewart and Chad Hansen used more? You started to see them being implemented a little bit more when the Jets had absolutely nothing to play for. Not that they really had anything to play for this year anyhow, but when you're playing with house money and this is a development year, why aren't you using all the tools in your toolbox? I'd like to get your opinion on that.
Dude, this is big. This is one of my biggest complaints of Todd Bowles. Is he's ridiculously loyal to veteran players, ridiculously loyal. And it's to his fault. It's going to be his downfall. And he does it on offense, does it on defense. He did it last year, he did it this year. It's the same thing, man. Like, listen, once you get Kearse in the fold, who's a very good, accomplished receiver, that's your veteran presence. You don't need Jeremy Curley. There's no need for him. Kearse is your guy. You got him late, but, hey, that's it. That's all you need. Ardarius Stewart was criminally underutilized. Even Chad Hansen, like they threw him in like, okay, you can come in. But they were going Curley, Kearse, and Robbie Anderson. These two kids were barely playing. And then they would bring in like JoJo Natson, the other guys. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, why is everybody playing but the guys that you draft so highly and that are so highly touted? But you know, they've done this in other positions. Listen, Brian Winters was playing with an injury, a serious injury the entire season, to the point where he was playing poorly. Absolutely poorly. Why not put in Dakota Dozier? Why not? And guess what happens when you change the guy? They actually play better. The team plays better. Or Mo Wilkerson with Xavier Cooper, McGuire. I mean, you look throughout the team. Todd Bowles always – and this isn't John Morton. This is Todd Bowles, dude, because Chan Gailey did the same nonsense. Right. So Bowles always leans on veteran players. And this year, which is supposed to be a rebuilding year, I mean, dude, Ardarius Stewart this year is a wash. We learned nothing. The one thing we learned was Chad Hansen's got some, you know, great sideline skills, soft hands, good route runner. We don't know nothing about Stewart. So his rookie year is a wash. And in the year that you're 5-11, that's criminal. It's just ridiculous.
Right. And now, in your opinion, even though Quincy Enunwa is going to be coming back from injury and you really don't know how he's going to perform after this injury, if you are Mike Maccagnan, do you still go out in free agency and get yourself a number one? Or do you hope that Quincy is going to come back to Quincy of old, and do you just keep things as is?
To be honest with you, this year I'm going big everywhere because, first of all, you have the cap space and you have the draft picks, and there's too many unknowns at the wide receiver position. And I'll give you my unknowns. Chad Hansen, unknown. Ardarius Stewart, we just talked about him, unknown. Robbie Anderson, you can't trust him. Period. I don't care about his talent. The kid just doesn't get it. So he could be the game-breaking elite player. I really don't care. Arrested twice in 7 months. You cannot trust him, and you can't count on him. He's going to be suspended. Quincy Nunwa is a guy that you love. I mean, listen, I'm a big Quincy Nunwa fan. Love him. Serious injury, man. You can't count on him. So if you want to bring in a young quarterback, a draft one at 6, or you want to bring in Kirk Cousins or whoever you want, you give this person a proven, legitimate number one guy, and you go get him. And I spend. You want Allen Robinson? Done. Jarvis Landry? Fine. I do it. I mean, what do you think? I mean, you can't. I'm tired of wondering and hoping and praying. I want a legitimate guy that I know what he can do and he can prove. Period.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that, you know, one of the 3 things that I put out there, and as a matter of fact, as I was promoting the article at the beginning of the show, I actually used a statement which I heard you say about Josh McCown being the anti-Ryan Fitzpatrick. So now I'm going to transition over to the quarterbacks, okay? Kirk Cousins, you know he's going to be the highly touted free agent. You know that the Jets they have to go all in on him. If you don't get Kirk Cousins, what's your backup plan?
So after I drink about a half a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I start feeling, to be honest with you,
I love that.
to be honest with you, once you lose out on Kirk Cousins, I'm going to the draft. Like I'm not. Alex Smith makes no sense to me because you have to trade for him, which means draft compensation. He's on a 1-year deal, which means you have to give him an extension, and he makes a lot of money. Don't want him. Tyrod Taylor, listen, I want answers, not questions, so he's not my guy. And Teddy Bridgewater's an unknown. Like, listen, the kid had a good year, but some people are acting like he's like a guaranteed franchise quarterback. He's got more questions than answers, too. So I'm like, I'll pass on that. And then I'm just going to say, listen, if Kirk Cousins goes somewhere else, which I think he will because McCagnon won't get the deal done, then, dude, bring back Josh McCown, 1 year, $8-9 million. And you draft your guy, and you sell your soul for the draft, dude. Don't settle at 6 and hope and pray. If you have a quarterback you want, you sell your soul and you get that guy. Don't be a bitch. Don't make excuses. Just get the guy. No more games because, dude, this offseason is crucial. We have to get a franchise quarterback. You can't play this game anymore. You can't. It's just the NFL's passing us by while we're working with Band-Aids. Get your guy, stick by him, and then move on.
Exactly. You and I are right in the same vein of thinking because that was something that I had put in my article that I had insisted that the Jets go hard after Kirk Cousins, and if you don't get him, because Josh McCown, because of his level of play last year, this past season, he's warranted to be able to bring him back. And he's openly said that he's very open to coming back. So if Kirk Cousins doesn't work out and you don't get Kirk Cousins in the building, just pay the man. I was going at it with Justin about Josh McCown, and he's like, oh, well, just give Josh McCown $2 million. And I'm like, no. I'm like, you give him like a $7-8 million sweetheart deal, fully guaranteed, as a thank you for doing what you did last year. And then you do exactly what the Giants did with Eli Manning, with frickin' Kurt Warner. Okay, I'll remember that year as plain as day. The Giants were 6-2, and they pulled Warner and they put Eli in, and then Eli played the rest of the year. And then look what happened. They ended up winning 2 Super Bowls. So
dude, it's not. But dude, the thing is, Jet fans. I mean, some of them are just so stuck in the mud, and so they harbor such ill will towards Ryan Fitzpatrick. Their head gets stuck in the clouds. Josh McCown is the anti-Fitzpatrick for so many different reasons. It's a litany of reasons. And he knows his career is almost over. He knows this is his last payday, his last team, everything else. He's not going to be a problem. So once you don't get Kirk Cousins, you bring in McCown, who will run the offense, who will help your young quarterback. And when you tell him, listen, man, you're going to play 4 or 5 games, whatever, and then it's going to be time for whoever to come in. All right, cool. And he won't be a distraction. Like it's a perfect scenario. And everybody's like, well, you can't do that. Well, tell me why. Because the fact of the matter is Hackenberg should be cut. Bryce Petty should be cut because they're useless. So what you do is you cut the trash, you bring in a guy that you know can actually help you on the field and off the field, and you move on. Dude, you have $100 million in cap space. $9 million isn't going to hurt you. I mean, that's
right.
Just the fact that, you can't pay him that, like Justin said. Dude, why? Dude, $7 million is not, $8 million is nothing. I mean, that's backup quarterback pay. And he's going to be probably like your quarterback coach at the same time. So, dude, it is what it is, man. He's the right guy in the right place. If you don't get Cousins, you just go with him. With the expectation, he's not your starter. He's a guy that's helping you. He's your bridge. He's your Band-Aid, because your future is going to be sitting on the bench ready to play, hopefully by, week 7, week 8, hopefully?
Exactly. Now, speaking of the future, okay, I've been reading a lot of different things. I know that I am very enamored with 2 quarterbacks that I like in this draft. I like Baker Mayfield. I like Lamar Jackson. Okay? Now, I am not opposed to the Jets making a deal with San Francisco, who I think has the 4th pick overall. Am I correct? I don't have the draft order up in front of me.
I think Cleveland's 4. The Cleveland's 4, isn't it? Aren't the Cleveland 4? I think Cleveland 1 and 4. I forget.
Let me see here if I can pull it up real quick. But I do know that either way, the Jets, if they know that their guy is not going to be there at 6, they need to make a deal to go up and get him. Okay, and there's pretty much a good chance that Sam Darnold is probably going to go number 1 overall. Josh Rosen will probably go number 2 overall. All right. These are the 2 guys that, in my opinion, I have my eye on. Lamar Jackson is already being heralded as like Deshaun Watson 2.0, and everybody was saying, Deshaun Watson, he's an unfinished product, and so on. He's going to be trash, and you know what? He went to Houston, and he absolutely lit shit up. So, why not take a chance on a Lamar Jackson? Baker Mayfield, dude, there's a ton of reasons why I would love to see Baker Mayfield in green and white. One, because the kid's got moxie. He's not afraid to go out to be that field general. So if there's somebody out there that if I'm an offensive lineman and I'm a wide receiver or I'm a tight end or I'm a running back that I want to lace up my boots and go into battle with, it's this kid. Because this kid is going to go out there and it's like he doesn't care if he's down by 40. He's still freaking trying to hit that home run pass. He's still trying to move that offense down the field, and he's still trying to put points on the board. I mean, you saw it in the bowl game. So, I mean, like, this kid was just he was just unbelievable. He looked possessed. So, he's somebody who, believe it or not, could probably shake the Jets out of apathy and, breathe some life back into the quarterbacks or the quarterback position. Who do you like at 6, or better yet, which quarterback do you have your eye on, and what do you feel the Jets should do as far as going up and getting this kid if they're not going to fall to 6?
Well, I'll say this. If I'm Mike McCagnon, once you don't get Kirk Cousins, I'm selling my soul in the draft, dude. I don't care about draft picks. I honestly don't. If they say, listen, we want your 1st, your 2nd, a 4th, and next year 2nd, okay, fine. Doesn't bother me whatsoever, because this is the draft you get your quarterback. And it's so funny because some fans are like, we can maybe get one next year. No, this is the year. Stop being a bitch. Stop being cheap. Stop being frugal. Stop being an old Jets fan. Go get your guy, because you have $100 million in cap space. So if you lose 3 picks, guess what? You can go buy the players you need. Not a big deal. And let's be honest, McCagnon screwed some picks anyway, so our picks are never guaranteed to begin with. So I'll just say that. I'll sell my soul. I'll give up draft picks. Do not care at all. The quarterbacks, I'm not as high on Sam Darnold as everybody else is. To me, if I was him, I'd stay in school another year. That's my own personal preference. He won't, because he's so great. He's such a great talent. He's going to come out. I like Rosen a lot. Rosen is just an incredible quarterback. And to be honest with you, if the Giants don't go quarterback at 2, things get really interesting, man. Because then what do you do? I mean, then these guys could fall to you. Are the Colts going to take a quarterback? They have Andrew Luck, probably not. Cleveland will probably take one at 1. They're at 4. Then you have the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are a team you're competing with. So, just say Darnold and Rosen are gone. I go Mayfield, and you talked about why. The kid is just a gamer, and he's not scared of the big moment. He's been the big moment. He's not scared of the media. He can handle all of it. The one thing you question is his size a little big. He's a little short, which is fine. He's got a good enough arm. And the other thing he has is accuracy, which after we watch Hackenberg and other clowns play, we know they don't have any. Dude, he's accurate. Now, the one thing that I will give you credit for is Lamar Jackson is intriguing, man. That kid is so diverse and so dynamic, and that's the kind of guy. You watch Deshaun Watson play, man. You're like, dude. Well, first of all, we could have had him, but I mean, It's just like it's such a unique talent. But then my biggest fear with that is, do we have the coaching staff in place to actually maximize that talent and even cater to that talent? And I really don't know. I mean, that's the biggest question. The other question is, will this fan base? This is my question for you: is will this fan base even have the patience to let a Lamar Jackson develop and try to learn the game and do this? I mean, that's a concern for Mayfield as well. But it's just, will this fan base even tolerate the learning curve and the growing pains and things like that? But for me, it's Mayfield. If Rosen was even remotely available, I'd take him ahead of Mayfield, but I don't think he's going to be there. And Lamar Jackson, dude, it's just a world of talent. And the one guy we're not mentioning, and for good reason, is Josh Allen. I will tell you right now, if the New York Jets draft Josh Allen, there will be an epic meltdown. After my TV, the TV will be broken, the microwave will be out the window, and I'll have a pitchfork in Florham Park because McCagnon should seriously, if they take Josh Allen, McCagnon should be fired. On the minute the pick is in, I want to say like the old Gong show. Have a guy come in, just gong, and he gets fired right there. Off the stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, Josh Allen, with his accuracy issues, is just Christian Hackenberg 2.0. And yep. I totally am with you on this. I could totally see the Jets taking Josh Allen, and it's kind of funny because somebody put on Twitter a meme of when with the sixth pick, the Jets select quarterback Josh Allen, and you just see some guy come out and take his Jets jersey and throw it in the backyard and slam the door.
That'll be the end.
That would totally be the end. Oh, I think Jets Twitter would explode like the Death Star. I really would. Oh, man. So all kidding aside, though, I'm glad you're looking at Mayfield. Rosen is actually somebody who intrigues me a little bit, but I just don't think that he's going to be on the board at that high at 6. I think somebody's definitely going to snag him, but he could be if the Giants don't go quarterback at 2. So
yep,
it should remain to be seen. Now I want to switch gears to the offensive line. Okay. Mike McCagnon has criminally neglected this offensive line since he's been here. Now, Brian Winters playing injured. Wesley Johnson is definitely not the answer at center. Kelvin Beachum was serviceable at best. James Carpenter, he had some good points. He had a lot of good points, some negative. The offensive line this year struggled. Now, in your opinion, free agent-wise, who do you go and get to try to bolster that offensive line?
I mean, to me, the biggest hole is the center position, and that's where it starts and ends for me there. I'm not you mentioned some of the guys. I'm not the biggest fan of Beachum. I think he's serviceable, but McCagnon once again screwed the pooch there by taking the Band-Aid attempt, which didn't work. Didn't work with Clay. He's not working with Beachum, but we're kind of stuck there. Carpenter's good for another year. He's fine. Brian Winters was hurt. Brandon Shell, I'm not as high on as everybody else is. I don't understand how Pro Football Focus works, where every game it's like Brandon Shell gave up no sacks. Like, how the hell is that possible? Like, I watch every goddamn game. McCown's running for his life, blown assignments everywhere. So Brandon Shell is okay, but me, it's center. And there's a guy out of Baltimore, Jensen, phenomenal player. I mean, you got Richburg out there, but dude, for me, people want to get a center in the draft. I'd rather go with a known commodity here, especially if you're going with a rookie quarterback. I don't want a rookie center and a rookie quarterback. I'd rather have a rookie, you get to bring in a Mayfield and give him Jensen or give him a guy who's played center before and not like just get, really screw yourself. And then you see what you have. I mean, the other thing that McCagnon, you touched on this, McCagnon, like the line depth. Like Dakota Dozier's been there. They haven't been playing him. Ben Isolana, Dude, $5 million. He didn't do jack. He didn't do anything all year. $5 million. He was inactive every week.
Yep.
So he's got to do a better job of just drafting guys, bringing guys in, and bringing quality depth. So if somebody does go down, we're not sitting there panicking with our fingers up our ass. So, but dude, I mean, don't you think so? I mean, free agency, the priority's got to be a center and go out and get the guy and just sign him and be done with it. You can't play around here.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, look, if you go and take a look at Jets' past history, all right, Kevin Mawai, all right, you actually touched upon this on your show. All right, they went out, they signed Kevin Mawai, and then right from there, they brought in Alan Faneca, and all of a sudden the Jets had one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. For Vinny Testaverde to just go back there and just pick apart defenses like a Thanksgiving turkey. So, it also helps having Keyshawn Johnson, Dietrich Ward, and Wayne Corbett. But, it all starts and ends in your battles in the trenches. And the Jets were pitiful in the battle in the trenches, to be honest with you. You touched upon it before. McCown was just constantly running for his life in the fourth quarter. Teams would just tee up their NASCAR package and just blast McCown because he was not getting any protection. So, if you put Baker Mayfield back there, they're going to end up getting David Carr syndrome, and that's the last thing that you want. So now to answer your question before about will Jet fans have to be patient as far as the development and let a quarterback develop? Well, I'm going to answer that question with this. Let's take a look at the two doofuses we have on the roster now. Bryce Petty and Christian Hackenberg. Okay? These guys have been here multiple years, still don't know shit about the offense, and still can't competently run this offense. So, but yet, everybody was screaming to put them in. Oh, let's develop them. And then when they go in there, they can't do anything. But yet you put them against a second-string offense, you put them against a third-string offense in preseason, and they're throwing for 400 yards. They could put you and me back there between a second-string and a third-string defense, and we could light it up. Okay, so you're not really learning anything there. I'll go back even further. Okay, Kellen Clemens. Okay, everybody was screaming to put him in. All right, Greg McElroy. Everybody was screaming to put him in. Okay, I mean, how many more times as Jet fans do we need to be deluded that the guy on the bench is better than the guy that's starting? So we need to get ourselves out of that mindset. And we need to get away from this win-now approach, too, because this win-now approach translated into Mike Maccagnan spending like a drunken sailor, having $200 million locked up in a secondary that was only good for about three-quarters of a season. Okay, the Jets finished 10-6 with a weak record and still couldn't get into the playoffs. That's my explanation in a nutshell. So as Jet fans, we got to just stop this bullshit. We got to stop it. We have to stop with this, if we sign Kirk Cousins, we have to make the playoffs. Or if we go out and we get this guy, we have to make the playoffs. It's playoffs or bust. Stop it. I don't want to hear about playoffs. I'm actually going to treat this year, this mindset, regardless of who we go out there and sign, as the same way I treated last year, as continuing to develop. We have to continue to reinforce the foundation and continue to build. And sometimes, you know what, with as many losing seasons as we've had, and it's been frustrating, but the reason why it's been frustrating is because we've been in constant win-now mode. How about can we be competitive every single year, that every single year we're in the talk to make a deep run in the playoffs, possibly get to the Super Bowl? We're constantly a playoff threat, where teams that come into MetLife Stadium have to now take us seriously instead of circling it and saying, okay, that's going to be a win. The Jets are coming to town, that's going to be a win. But it all starts and ends with Todd Bowles. Todd Bowles, at the end of the day, still needs to pull his head out of his ass and prove that he could be a competent coach, and he's got to stop this bullshit with being reliant on veterans. You have a chock full of rookies that are hungry and want to play, and that whole the whole paint scheme that they have now in Florida Park there, and he's got that big motto that he has on the team facility door: if you're not prepared to put team first, turn around. Okay, well, guess what? He's got to live it. Okay, so which means if the veteran is playing like shit, it's time for you to put the rookie in. So if you're going to sit there and you're going to hold your players accountable, then you have to be accountable too. So that's what I'm looking for Todd Bowles, because personally, if the Jets end up, with another 5-11, 6-10, and they're blowing leads like they did last year, then it all starts and ends, like you said, with Todd Bowles. Then maybe Todd Bowles is not the guy. What are your thoughts on that?
Dude, I agree, and that's my biggest thing. And it's like there's so many of examples where he's mismatched things, whether it's the roster, game day experience. Like, look at Xavier Cooper. Mo Wilkerson mailed this entire season and does not care about this team at all. It's been obvious for a year and a half. So here he is. They're trotting him out every week. He's still late to meetings, still doesn't care. They take him. They finally suspend him, and Xavier Cooper emerges. Like, wow, this guy's a player. Why wasn't he playing half the season? Why wasn't he playing 3/4 of the season? Because Todd Bowles is too stupid and too loyal to Mo Wilkerson, who doesn't even want to be here. So it's his biggest problem. And now it's like he has his third offensive coordinator, which is mind-blowing to me. Completely mind-blowing to me. That fact that Todd Bowles, who's accomplished nothing as head coach, is given his third offensive coordinator. So now, guess what? Even though I don't like Hackenberg, this is his third offense in 3 years. Terrible. And people are like, well, it's just Jeremy Bates. He's already been here. He's here. He's going to implement a new offense with new naming conventions, new routes, everything's going to change. If 60% changes, it's a change for Hackenberg and Petty, which is not good for a young quarterback. So when the Jets are saying, oh, it's about continuity, practice what you preach. You're firing guys, giving Todd Bowles, it's ridiculous. So now it's like, okay, Todd Bowles, now you're getting your third coordinator.
Yep, I like that.
Todd Bowles is my favorite topic because it's ridiculous how they handle him. So now it's like, all right, you get your third coordinator. You've run out of scapegoats. Your scapegoat was Ryan Fitzpatrick. It was Chan Gailey. Now it was John Morton. You're out of excuses. So now you have to produce a team that's going to actually my biggest problem is everybody giving credit for playing hard. Well, they played hard this year. That's their job. Since when are our standards so low when a team actually shows up, we're actually happy about it? Like, oh, wow, they played hard this week. So that's our standard now? That should be our standard every week of every year. So now that thing is gone. So now it's like you're going to have a talented team. You got to show us significant improvement from week 1 to week 17. You have to. Because there's no reason not to. You're going to have the talent is not going to be an excuse anymore for him. Now, can he do it? I have no idea. I don't have any faith in him. I mean, I don't know if you do. I don't. I really don't. I think his defense is vastly overrated. His defensive mind is vastly overrated. And the Jets were scared to make a change. God knows why. And here we are again. And the sad thing is, it's not going to be a win-now year because you're going to have the built-in excuse of, well, we learned a new defense. We learned a new offense, and we incorporated all these new players. So this year, no matter what happens, he's got an excuse. So he's going to be here 2 more years, and we have no idea what to expect. But it should be competent football where they're winning games, 7, 8 games. They should at least win that with a talented team. They really should.
Right. Well, they were on the verge. If you actually go and think about it, if you go and take a look at this year's schedule, they could have very easily won 8 games this year.
Yep, they should have
very very easily. And this team, I'm sorry to say, was not really all that talented. So it's like Todd Bowles is being given very much and doing very
He's
little.
He's rewarded for mediocrity. Much. Dude, he's rewarded for mediocrity because the team played, they competed, and they danced before the Bills game. That's it. What do we reward him for? Because the team actually showed up this year, the same team that quit on him last year. The same thing the Giants fired McAdoo for is the same thing that happened to Todd Bowles last year, but the Jets didn't fire him. That's the same goddamn thing. And now, they bounced back this year. Not really, because what they did was they got rid of the veteran problems. They brought in guys playing for a paycheck and kids that didn't know any better. So your competitive atmosphere is because everybody's motivated because there's a chance to get playing time or a big fat paycheck. So that's what happened. It wasn't really Todd Bowles, dude. It was the mindset of the player that was brought in. But now you give Safarian Jenkins a 5-year deal. You give DeMario a 5-year deal. You give Claiborne a 3-year deal. Are you getting the same effort, the same results? Who knows? You saw it happen to Mo Wilkerson.
It's a crapshoot.
What happened to Mo Wilkerson? Mo Wilkerson, everybody and their best friend told me, we got to keep our own. We got to re-sign him. Oh, yeah? How'd that work out for us? Because the warning signs were already there before he got the contract, but nobody wanted to listen to him. Right.
Yeah, he wouldn't have gotten that contract if it were up to me, but it wasn't up to me. that was just a waste of money. Oh my God! Yep. And then the fact that he had the sheer balls to stand up in front of the media, and when somebody asked him the question, "Do you think you earned your contract?" and he said, "I earned every penny of my contract." It's like oh my God! I wanted to stick my hand through the TV and choke that bastard.
Yeah, but that's what. See, the thing is, a lot of fans they forget. Like, oh, I never said that. No, you did. Everybody wanted him back. I have like 5,000 tweets of we kept our own, good move, all this. And there's warning signs about other things here. Like even the thing with Robbie Anderson, dude, let's be honest. We've seen this show before. We've seen these kind of incidents before, and the future is not bright. So either he completely changes his agenda or he's going to be out of here, either by suspension, by being cut or something. It's not going to end well. There's fans go, sign him to a new contract now because he's in trouble. No, you moron. If anything, he's on the watch list. Like, listen, dude, you're going to be on your way out of here. Like, at some point, you learn your lesson here.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of disappointing about Robbie Anderson and everything that happened with him because, he is such a great talent, and he really is such a good story, being an undrafted free agent, being passed over, given the opportunity to come in and to prove what he can do. The problem is that, you can't be a doofus off the field. You can't be getting arrested twice in 7 months. You can't. The only time that you're headlining on SportsCenter is if you're doing like a charity golf event or you're doing some sort of, you're working with some local community charity and like giving to kids or helping the homeless or whatever. That's the only time that your name should ever come up in the news, that. It shouldn't be for doing 105 and a 45 and telling some frickin' cop you're going to nut in his wife's eye. It's a bad optic. It really is. And, the Jets will assist him in probably getting whatever help that he needs, to try and get his life straightened. This is where you hope that, he attaches himself to Austin Seferian-Jenkins and maybe ASJ could give him some pointers to straighten his life out. You don't want to see anybody fail at the pro level, but, at this point, I have to agree with you, he's become a liability. Now, will he be suspended? Chances are, yeah. He's definitely going to be suspended. And if he's not, then it's really going to be a head scratcher. So, it still remains to be seen, but you have to act as if Robbie is not going to be on that roster next year and still have to address that problem by going out and bringing somebody in from the outside. So I'm definitely in agreement with you on that.
Yeah, I mean, and this is the whole thing about like the culture. As the team moves forward, what's the culture going to be? I mean, you obviously had no idea how to handle Mo Wilkerson. In the last 2 weeks of the season, you finally figured it out after a year of just being blatantly obvious. So how they learn their lessons, and now it's like, what kind of guys are you going to bring in? Are there going to be character guys, high character guys? But, what do you put a premium on? And that's going to dictate. And, dude, this offseason will either hinder us or help us for the next 3 or 4 years. So if McCagnon completely screws the pooch, we are screwed for 4 years. Because with all the money being spent and the high draft value, everything else, if he blows it here, we are screwed for at least 3 or 4 years. And that's not even exaggerating, man.
Yeah, and we all know that Chris Johnson has already come out in the media and said that he is not a patient man. So believe it or not, it's kind of refreshing that you have Chris Johnson, who's like nothing like Woody, where he says very little to the media. He's very vague in his statements, and which is kind of good. Whereas opposed to Woody, who's like every other day he wants to be on the back page of the New York Post for some retarded reason. So.
Yeah, but you know what though? This will be his test though. Free agency with this kind of money will be Chris Johnson's test to see, am I going to be about the headlines? Am I going to be about – because if he wants to bring in Kirk Cousins, he's got to be front and center. Fly out there. Be at his doorstep at midnight or whatever time it is, 4:05, whatever time it is. But Chris Johnson's going to play a vital role too, man. So here's his test too before we start giving him awards. He's got to play a crucial part this offseason. Yeah,
absolutely. He needs to be front and center. I mean, look, you load the plane up with strippers. You go right over there, the dancing girls, everything. You do whatever you got to do to get Kirk Cousins in the building. And once you do, you lock the door. You don't let him leave until he signs the contract. So now, out of curiosity, talking about Kirk Cousins, all right, there's a lot of numbers that are floating around on Twitter about Kirk Cousins and the money that he would get. What would you give him? What would be an acceptable contract in your eyes that Kirk Cousins should just say, hey, well, you know what, this is the place and whatever?
Well, you got to know the guy's about money because he's betting on himself the last couple of years, so he wants to make a contract. And the problem the Jets have is twofold. There's other suitors, and our situation right now is not easy to defend. As Kirk Cousins, do you want to come play for Todd Bowles and Jeremy Bates? Probably not. So you got to overpay. So initially, dude, we had the cap space, we had the money. 5 years, $150 million, $100 million guaranteed, and get it done. And that's it. That's your offer. Because he's going to get $27 million per. That's his rate. 25, right. 26, 20. That's the rate he's gonna warrant. That's the going rate for him. So you're going to have to overpay because we're the Jets and we have Todd Bowles. Lucky us. And dude, you go all in. And the thing is, dude, be honest, we have $100 million in cap space. If you take away $30 million, you still have $70 million. That's more than we had the last 3 years, for Christ's sakes. So right. Spend it. We have it. Spend it. If that's the guy you believe in, I mean, don't you think? I mean, what's your take? You can't go cheap with your most important position.
Yeah, you're right. It's like I've stated before. Kirk Cousins, you go after him, but you don't also want to be stupid either. If you want to sign him to a 5-year deal, $150 million does sound great. $30 million per, fully guaranteed. I definitely would not have an issue with that. I would also go possibly a 3-year deal, the 3-year deal, $100 million plus incentives. Maybe the contract value comes out to 110, 115, total value. And the big pitching point is this that I would sell to him is that you're coming to a big media, okay, a big media market, probably one of the biggest media markets in the world. You were to come to the New York Jets and in 2 years you win a Super Bowl here, or you make a deep playoff run and this team is now a contender, you're going to be heralded in New York as a god, as the savior. Yep. Sort of like how the Rangers did with Mark Messier. Mark Messier was already accomplished, being in Edmonton. But when the Rangers ended up signing him in 91 and then in 94, he finally brought a Stanley Cup to New York. He's still heralded as one of the biggest sports figures in New York history.
Look at Testaverde.
Right. Look at Testaverde as well, too, taking him to the AFC Championship game and giving the Jets their first AFC title in God knows how long. So it's being able to come here and to be able to turn the franchise around and be part of a rebuilding process in which now your name will become a legacy. Your name will become a legend. That might be the selling point. And if I'm Chris Johnson, that's exactly what I'm pushing. If I'm Todd Bowles, that's exactly what I'm pushing. Well, I would leave Todd Bowles out of the room because he's an idiot. So, but if I'm Chris Johnson, this is what I'm pushing. If I'm Mike McCagnon, this is what I'm pushing. And that might just be enough to be able to snag him away. Because, dude, if he goes to Cleveland, they're going to pay him $175 million, 5 years, and that team's going to go 1-15 every single year. So, I mean, if you're Kirk Cousins, do you want to go to a team that has a legit this is kind of like a double-edged sword, but if you want to go to a team where within the next 2 to 3 years you definitely could win a Super Bowl, then it could be a possibility he may end up going to Jacksonville if Jacksonville's on that list. But there's been some reports that Shad Khan has given Blake Bortles the blessing, the Godfather blessing, and he's going to be the starter going forward. So they may end up re-signing him. So Jacksonville might not end up being an option. So now you're looking at Denver. You're looking at Cleveland, possibly Washington even now finally breaking down and re-signing him, and saying you're not going anywhere. So, If the Jets are going to go full blow, they have to go full blow, and they can't be stupid about it. You have to go all in. And if you don't get him, you re-sign Josh McCown and be done with it and turn your attention toward the draft.
Yeah, dude, I agree. And the thing is with this is where, McCagnon and Chris Johnson have had the entire season. They've had an entire year to formulate their game plan to get their quarterback. This is not going to catch them by surprise. So once Kirk Cousins becomes officially a free agent and he's on the market, you better have a plan in place, whether that's saying, hey, listen, we're going to sign you, then we want Allen Robinson, then we want whatever, but have a clear and concise plan and a sales pitch. And like you said, dude, if he comes here, I'd say 75% of the fan base already wants him. They love him already. Dude, he'll be the king of New York because everybody's going to love him, and they're he's had a chance to be a superstar in New York and sell that. I mean, but you have to be all in, dude. You can't lose out over $5 million. You can't lose out over $4 million. You can't penny pinch. You get your guy. Same thing with the draft. It's the same mindset. And that comes down to Chris Johnson, man, and McCagnon. You got to be aggressive and you got to be bold. You go big or go home. That's it, because you have no excuses anymore.
Yep, you're right about that. All right, my friend, we are going to end today's podcast here. I'd like to thank Mr. Tyson Rauch. Before you go, I want you to tell everyone how they can get a hold of you, how they can listen to the show, where they can find you, everything. My friend, the floor is yours.
Well, dude, first of all, thank you for having me on. You have me all fired up now. So now I'm going to be all running around the house all fired up today. So anytime you want to talk football, bring me on. T Rauch 21 on Twitter, TRAUCH 21, and we're Let's Talk Jets Radio at Talk Jets Radio, live Tuesday night, 8 o'clock on Blog Talk and iTunes and Google Play and everything else. So we appreciate any follows, any listens. Call in and talk to us. Our callers are completely insane, so we will talk to anybody. And that's it, man. Thank you, dude. I really appreciate your time. This is awesome, man.
Dude, man, you know you have the open invitation. Just hit me up. You can come on anytime, my friend.
This was all. I had a blast.
All right, I'm glad. We got to do this again very soon. Hopefully, we can get your partner in crime on here too, so so the both of you can go back and forth. Oh my God, what a circus that would be! All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Jet Factor podcast here today on SoundCloud.com. Be sure to follow the show at CNC Jets Factor. Shoot the show an email at thejetsfactor@gmail.com. You can follow me at JetsFan0523 for Tyson Rauch. And this is CJ the Painkiller D. Simone saying we will see you guys when we see you guys.